Hi, I'm Craig Lounsbrough. I want to welcome you to LifeTalk. Thanks for taking some time to join us today. You know, self-esteem is a major issue for a lot of people. The fact is, it's crippling. And so on today's podcast, we're going to look at the 5 big lies that wreck our self-esteem. Lie number 1, projection and labeling as fact. There are things that we don't like about ourselves. There are things about ourselves that crush our fragile self-esteems, that cause us a lot of deep pain, that wreck our relationships and leave us feeling that everything in our lives is bad and nothing is good. But when our attempts to deny the existence of those things fail, we seek relief by making those issues about somebody else. Therefore, we tend to seek out someone who is relationally positioned to us in just such a manner that these issues could convincingly be seen as theirs. Or we seek out someone quite distant from us, whose behaviors or lifestyle or life circumstances are such that it would not be inconceivable that these issues could be theirs as well. And so in whatever way that we happen to do it, we often project our issues on someone else, thereby rather convincingly unburdening us of everything that haunts us about us. But more often than not, the reverse is true. Someone does that to us. And when that happens, the issue is that we rather naively accept the behaviors or the traits or the qualities that are attributed to us by others. We too often assume them to be ours, and then we convince ourselves of them by living them out as if they were. Yet they are not our story. They are the realities of someone else's story that gets dumped on us. Lie number 2, a blatant omission. Somehow, some way, for some reason, we bypass the good that we do. We assume the good to be the norm, the right thing to do, the thing for which no applause is warranted. It doesn't show up on our radar because it's not about some sort of extra or extended effort. It's not about the extra mile. It has nothing to do with the sacrifice or the cost incurred in sacrificing. It's just what we're all supposed to do. So why pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing in the first place? Now, add to that the fact that focusing on the good sometimes seems a bit egocentric, so we don't want to focus on it. Therefore, we pay the good little to no attention. It just is. Consequently, any shard of good tends not to show up in the mosaic that we are creating. And in the end, this mosaic of ourselves is often reft of the very things that make us good, that keep us good, and can eventually make us great. Lie number 3, we rigorously collect our flaws. Our flaws become our focus. We literally fixate on them because they tell us that we're everything that they are, and that they, conversely, are everything that we are. They lay claim to the whole of our identity, stating that there is nothing else besides them. Our flaws seem to seek a prominence in our lives, declaring that our identity is what we have to fix, not what we have to celebrate. As such, our flaws scream for our attention, and we give them plenty of it because in time we believe that there's no other part of ourselves to give attention to. Also, the presence of our flaws assumes the absence of anything good, or at least the absence of anything sufficiently good. And so over time, our flaws lead us to embrace the belief that anything good within us is itself a flaw in our thinking. Anything good was an accident that's not likely to happen again. We can't be trusted to understand anything about ourselves because any such thinking is likely to be flawed as well. And in the end, the only thought that we have any confidence in at all is that we're flawed. Lie number 4, flaws reinforced. Now, if all of that is not bad enough, we hear about our flaws from others, whether it's from a parent or a spouse or a sibling or a boss or a teacher or some stranger. Our ethnicity is attacked. Our occupation is degraded. Our successes are drawn through the mud of criticism. we become the narrative of those running from themselves. Within whatever circles they travel, the stories of us are passed on as a means of convincing others that the fiction about us is the fact that defines us. And in creating these alliances of lies where others sit and nod in ignorant agreement about who we are, these stories are accepted as our story. Who it comes from matters some, but not much. The fact is that our flaws are reinforced by others who are likely running from their own flaws. The story about us is told, retold, and recast in the telling. It's reinforced and it finds a false legitimacy in the telling. And after we are sufficiently pummeled by these encounters with these people, we find ourselves increasingly unsettled, and we leave room for doubt to seep into the crevices of our insecurities. In its devious and stealthy way, a lie reinforced can begin to look like a truth told. And when the lies are told, we desperately hope that they aren't true. However, we must always remember that no amount of reinforcement will ever make a lie the truth. Ever. And finally, lie number 5. I was born flawed. The ultimate surrender is in believing that we were born flawed. Somehow our nature is assumed to be inherited, much like our hair color or our shoe size. It just is. Genetics got us. We just happened to be at the shallow end of the gene pool when things were being handed out. We ended up in that kind of family. Whatever the behaviors are that resulted in that kind of family, every single one of those unsavory traits runs dead center through every generation right down to us. We're stuck with whatever we perceive our inherent flaws to be, whether inherited or adopted. The only option that we have is to manage our flaws as best we can, hoping against hope that we can at least do something marginally good with our lives. And all of this grants us permission to not try, so that should we fail in the trying, we won't reinforce the failure that we believe ourselves to be. We don't want to give it a shot because we don't want to be left looking in some lonely mirror telling ourselves, I told you so. With our self-esteem as low as it is, we've already spent plenty of time doing that. At other times, we're just plain apathetic because we haven't found any other viable alternative. And so with all of that said, I want you to think about this. You are what you choose to be. Life is not a dictated script. It's far from being something which you have to surrender to. Yes, there are things that we did not ask for that we have to deal with. Regardless, whatever our flaws, there is always room to do something about them. Always. Some option always exists. There are always possibilities. Look, life affords us choices and chances. The human spirit is tenacious and powerful and wonderfully creative. Don't underestimate your capabilities and your resources. Realize that the resources that you possess outclass and outweigh any flaw, perceived or real. Choose to view yourself differently and more accurately. Choose to choose you, for despite your low self-esteem, I guarantee you won't be disappointed. The Self That I Long to Believe In is a bold, timely, and inspirational book that will help you to effectively build your self-esteem. I would encourage you to get your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever books are sold. Thanks for joining us on LifeTalk today. I hope that you take the time to enjoy all of the many programs on our podcast. You'll find us on most podcast platforms as well as YouTube. See you next time.
You know, I've heard it a million times. And what I've heard is people telling me I have no purpose. People walk through this existence wondering why in the world they're here and what role are they supposed to play in all of this, and they don't believe they have one. And the issue really is not that you don't have a purpose. The issue is you haven't discovered it. And I would go so far as to say that not only do you have a purpose, but you have a purpose that was specifically created and honed to deal with the issues in our world today. You're not here by accident. You were put here with a skill set specifically designed to help deal with the realities that our world is facing today. You have a purpose. The issue is not that. The issue is finding out what it is and living it out. Because whatever that purpose is, we need you to fulfill that purpose. The world out there needs you to fulfill that purpose. You need you to fulfill that purpose. And so today I would have you start thinking, well, what is my purpose? What is my role in all of this? Begin to ferret that out. Search it out. Think about it. Pray about it. Because it's there. And it's waiting to be discovered. And then it's waiting to be acted upon.